It's actually crazy that this is the second game this month to feature a character with a magic paintbrush. Today I'm going to be talking about Epic Mickey Rebrushed and what makes it such a good remaster. Remastering games tends to go one of two ways. It's either a beautiful recreation of what made people originally fall in love with the original source material, or it's a dumpster fire. Fortunately, I'm gonna cut to the chase and say that Epic Mickey Rebrushed falls on this end of the spectrum. And there's a reason why that's so important. And that's what we're gonna dive into today. But first I'm gonna go on a small rant about media preservation real quick, but I swear it's relevant. The lack of media preservation means a lot of games have already been lost to time. When there's no official way to get a hold of these older games, and they're no longer manufactured, it's easy for them to literally just get forgotten. Like Men in Black zapped them out of your head. Backwards compatibility has helped that out somewhat, since nearly every Xbox game back to the original Xbox can be played on a Series X. And at least most games made for the PS4 can be played on the PS5 too. Except for Joe's Diner. Honestly, not even worth getting a PS5 if I can't even play Joe's Diner. But the point is, if I wanted to enjoy the original Epic Mickey right now, I would first have to find some place that still sells a Wii, and then buy Epic Mickey secondhand from like eBay or Craigslist. And I would say Facebook Marketplace as well, but I literally don't trust it anymore after the last time I went on there. That's not a dishwasher. So I can't just go to like Nintendo.com and get one from there. And if you even type in Wii, it's just like, looks like you're looking for a Switch. Get a Switch instead, idiot. Really, the only form of preservation that we've ever had from Nintendo is their emulators on the Switch, which have a limited selection and are locked behind paying for a subscription. So it's not very consumer friendly. But then again, when has Nintendo been consumer friendly? So there has been a couple solutions that made preserving games a little easier. Aside from emulation, because you know that's illegal, and I definitely don't condone that. In some cases, we've seen ports of games being sold on digital storefronts so they can still be purchased and played on modern hardware. PlayStation did some of this with its PS2 ports for the PS4 and PS5, like the original Sly Cooper game or Jak and Daxter. And we see a lot of other games being ported to Steam, like the older Sonic or Lego games too. This won't work for every game, mind you, but at least it is a good step in the right direction. The other option has been to remake or remaster games completely, which can be hit or miss because it tends to be a big investment, and some companies have only seen it as a way to cash in on nostalgia. So therefore, very little care or effort gets put into it. But Epic Mickey Rebrushed hits all of the right notes when it comes to what makes a remaster good, and I'd love to share with you how. It's beautiful, it's fun, and it has a ton of replayability. But I wanted to talk about specific points, so let's go over the first one that most people think of when it comes to remasters. We're all thinking it, the title card just showed it, let's say it together now. Graphics. Graphics. When it comes to graphics in a remaster, you'd like to see a noticeable difference. I mean, look at the original Crash Bandicoot versus the Insane Trilogy. If I put them side by side, you could easily tell which one is which. Hopefully. And when it comes to updating graphics, there's tons of examples to point to, kind of like how they remastered the original Last of Us. Twice. But if you are going to remaster a game, it needs to have a noticeable difference. Unlike The Last of Us Part 2. What you see behind me is two instances of The Last of Us 2. One of them is the original one that I recorded on this PlayStation 4 Pro, and the other one is The Last of Us 2 Remastered that I recorded on this PlayStation 5. And do you know which one is which? Because I don't. Yeah, I kind of mislabeled the footage while I was recording, and I can't even tell them apart to be able to label them correctly. So your guess is as good as mine. Like, there is no way for me to tell just by looking at them. But in Epic Mickey, the original had some areas and sections that were so washed out that you couldn't really tell what you were looking at. There were a lot of dark grays, greens, and blues that all meshed together. But then in Rebrushed, we see more defined lines and depth. And because it's modern hardware, there's a higher resolution to pick out the finer details. I absolutely love being able to clearly see these imaginative worlds, looking at all the different characters and being fully immersed down Mean Street. And even Oswald looks incredible. It's nice to see a game that enhances the visual quality instead of making its reign so dreadful to look at, like the GTA Definitive Trilogy. Like, what the hell is this? So it's definitely done right here, so we can mark graphics down as a check. But there's still definitely more to talk about. I feel like camera controls are not talked about enough when it comes to gaming. I mean, the original Mario 64 revolutionized what the camera could do in a 3D environment. It was no longer stuck in one place, forcing the player to work around its fixed position, and instead you could turn it around and line it up so you could get the perfect angle for your jump. And then miss anyways. But even back then, it still wasn't perfected. While some games have still suffered with bad camera controls, more often than not they've seemed to have gotten it down as the years go on. The original Epic Mickey had this janky camera that didn't work well with its built-in motion controls, and its difficult movement took you out of the experience. But Epic Mickey Rebrushed has a more freeing camera that allows the platforming to be more streamlined, and this also allows it to be played on different platforms like the Xbox and PlayStation. The motion controls have become more of like a gimmick or just part of the game rather than the main focus, which I think was an excellent choice. Dude, it's even with the motion control, look! They still am using the controller! Gameplay becomes so much smoother when you have the ability to control where you can see, which is the most obvious statement ever, but trust me, there are some games that make you feel like you're playing it blindfolded.
Go right. A little bit more right. Forward. Just forward. Hard forward. Just hard forward.
Am I towards?
Louise?
Don't play games blindfolded. Unless you're this guy. This guy can play games blindfolded. But there is one more major aspect of a remaster that I think might actually be the most important. The ultimate factor on what makes a good remaster is whether or not it learned from its prior mistakes and made changes that make sense, and not making changes that don't make sense. Like how Silent Hill HD decided to change one of its fonts.
Someone at fucking Hijinks Studios thought it was necessary to change the fucking font to Comic Sans.
A remaster isn't just an opportunity to resell the same game for a higher price, it's a chance to fix the problems that the original had. Albeit, the original game was loved by many, but most who played it could easily point out its flaws, like the graphics and the camera. But I'm talking about even more specific changes that once they were updated brought the game up to par, like the fact that you can sprint and do a little dash. Both of these help give the gameplay better pacing, but also allows for more dynamic movement overall. I was literally chaining together the dashes, jumps, and spins to get to places that I don't think I was really meant to get to. Like, I don't know the correct way to get this goofy animatronic piece, but at this point, I don't think I'll ever know because I'm just gonna schmooze over this gap every time. Speedrunners everywhere are crying tears of joy at having a new runnable game. And all of this also makes every Gilda speed trial just extremely easy. Oh my goodness, wait, the time trial's a joke. Then there's this one mechanic in the game where you have to hop through a film reel that takes you through a 2D platforming level to get from one area to another. But the problem in the original is that after you were done with that area, you had to go back through that film reel to get back to Mean Street. In the remake, you can still go back through the film reel if you want, but you can also just pay 10 Monopoly dollars to skip back over it. Backtracking in any game can suck, so having a quick and easy way to keep the game moving is such a good idea. And it's an excellent example of changing something without actually taking away something from the old game. And like I mentioned earlier, they even added back the motion controls, but in a way that wasn't super annoying. It's just there for limited platforming areas and a few of the bosses. But there's so many other little changes, from giving Mickey these fun little outfits to dress up in, all the way to the loading screens no longer taking 20 seconds anymore every time you die. And you know what they have that I really like that most modern games don't even have anymore? They had a demo. Yeah, you could play the first 20 minutes of the game for free to see if you liked it before you even decide to buy it. Why don't games do that anymore? When I was a kid, I was downloading all sorts of demos on my parents' computer and filling their hard drive with all of these different little games that I never got to play. And also probably a couple of viruses because I was 10 and there was like zero internet protection back then. But more games should have demos. Like, what are you scared of? If your game is good, let people play a little bit of it and then they'll decide to buy it. Don't be a weenie. Give me a demo. But all in all, everything I just mentioned really does show the importance of remasters in modern gaming, especially when it comes to media preservation. And yes, there is something to be said about preserving media in its original form, and that's probably even more important. But when it comes to games that run on outdated hardware with outdated control schemes, it's not something that's so easy to port. So changes have to be made anyways, and in that case, at least having a team of developers willing to go the extra mile to reimagine the game beats never getting to experience it again. And it even gives the chance for someone to experience it for the first time. Like me. Yeah, don't get mad, technically this is the first time I've ever played an Epic Mickey game. Don't yell at me, my parents didn't buy me a Wii growing up. We barely had electricity. But seriously, this game is phenomenal. I mean, I wish it wasn't $60, but hey, at least it's probably worth the $60. And chances are it's gonna go on sale a lot, so just wait for a sale. But when I started writing this video, it was just meant to be a fun little review talking about how much I liked this game, while also touching upon how being a remaster was important for preserving the ability to play it. And somewhere along the way, I decided that I had enough to say that I could just make a whole video about it. But if you are interested in this game, I definitely recommend it. It was way ahead of its time, giving multiple choices of how you can play that affect and decide multiple different endings, and choosing what type of Mickey you want to be. And it kept a lot of the same gameplay elements from the original that still makes it enjoyable today. I personally decided to make Mickey evil, but don't lie to me, I know you did too. So if you did enjoy this video though, there's another one popping up over here where I talk and say more things, and leaving a like and a subscription would be super cool, and I'd love that, thank you. I'm currently working on a Sonic Games video too, so if that sounds interesting, keep an eye out for that. And you can also follow me on Twitch because that's where I've been streaming to get footage for all of these games, so you can keep up with me there too. But it's October now, so I gotta go hibernate until football season is over. Kinda like what this guy's doing right here. Isn't that right, Reno? Good boy. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a beautiful time.